why do we need temples? What is the significance of the temples? To tell you frankly, this is the question that I had it when I came to this country, but I did not know anything about anything. And I was basically forced into selecting this particular path. As I said, I did not know anything. I did not know even what is the difference between Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara when I came to this country. I visited only very few temples back in India. Then I come here. And so one incident actually changed the whole perception of Hinduism, the greatness, the grandeur, the richness of our culture. And the more I read, more I get to know about Hinduism. There is more to learn, and my body shivers actually when I touch some book, because that is not even an iota of what is available in our shastras, in our books. But the temples really has attracted me to a large extent, because somehow I was, as I mentioned, forced into be a part of an organization where we built one temple back in 1988. So that particular temple, and I got a lot of experience, because I did not know anything about what are the rules, what are the scriptures, is there any rules and regulations. At one time, we had 17 murtis installed in that temple. We did not know what is involved in it, how many pujas the priests have to do it, and how much time it takes. So we learned lessons over a period of time. Then we realized that we have to really come up with some such structure even before we start the temple. That is how I came to know about, and all those, with that experience, the Sanman temple and others that we have started in a different way with the guidance of Sri Ganapati Sachidananda Swamiji. Now, just to look at this, all of us as Hindus have some concept of what is Hinduism. Because of our openness, the freedom, the liberty, somehow we have not been able to convince the next generation as to the importance of the temples. Once they get married, then the perspective changes. That is what is happening in Frisco, Texas. There is a need for these temples for a number of reasons. In human history, nobody has lived without any problems. Nobody has lived peacefully without being challenged in one way or the other. All of us have to have some kind of peace of mind, some purpose in life, some guidance we needed from different sources. So the only source that can give that kind of peace of mind or solace, some kind of spiritual endeavor, is only through the temples. These temples, how are they built? What is the science behind? And what are the scriptures that we have? Amitji, as you know, there are a lot of books in the construction of these temples, what we call Agama Shastras. Agama Shastras are the one they will describe how to even select the land, how to purify it, and how to select the site, and then how to build the temple, and what is the structure of the temple, is there any science behind it, and also the murti. And that one is Shilpa Shastra. So Shilpa Shastra will give you how to build how to carve the image and all that. because of the science behind it, there is so much spirituality, there is so much energy, there is so much power in the structure itself, as well as the murtis that are carved. First of all, the site that we select, originally, if you go back and look at all the temples over so many centuries, they used to be either on the mountains at higher levels, or very close to the ocean, or very close to the water, and also many of them are in forests. So those places are selected because of the closeness to the magnetic power, magnetic waves, and electrical power, electrical energy. So at a particular level, you have so much energy level where you will see the flow of energy from all the planets, and then focusing on a particular murti and particular place. So now, the selection of the site itself, how do we select it? So usually, it's a very interesting thing, actually, I came to know about it. And whenever you select some temple, some site, you have to be very careful in selecting what kind of site. There are 3 types of soils. So one is very barren land. There is always a dry wind. So that site is not going to help any place. So obviously they don't recommend that one. And then you have the ordinary type, just the way we see around it. But there is another site where you will see a lot of energy. There is a lot of flowers, a lot of trees. So, and that is where they will try to find out and see if that is suitable, and then look at the soil. The soil also has to have a certain type of color. You just cannot select some site and then decide this is what it is going to be. So this site that they select also has some kind of vibrations, some kind of music, some kind of noise. The people in general, if you follow through the Agama Shastras, they will actually listen to the vibrations. They just lay down on the floor, on the soil, then they try to see what kind of sounds they can hear from that place. That's because, actually, the influence of the soil, or sthala, we call it. If you remember in Ramayana, of course, Ram, Lakshmana, Sita, and Hanuman, so they were in a forest for 12 years. They were going through some forest. And Lakshmana always carried all the luggage of the Rama, Sita, and others. When he came to a particular spot, so he thought about it and said, why I have to carry all these things for Rama? What is so great about him? I am not going to carry it. And so then he says he would ask Rama to go ahead and take your luggage. I'm not going to carry it. So Rama smiled and then said, okay, that's fine, I'll take it. And then they walked for a few more miles. And then Lakshmana realizes, what did I do? Why did I ask Rama? He's like a god and I know he's a god. What happened to me? Why did I ask this question? And then Rama says, you see, the sthala has influence. The sthala, that where you said, I have to carry this luggage, and where you had that negative opinion, that is the place where demons actually concentrated and put so much negative energy. It doesn't matter how many people will go through, they all have the negative values. So that's the reason you had that kind of thing. Don't worry about it. So you pass that one. So that means whenever we select the soil also, or the land, so we have to be careful. That is the reason what we do is do what is called consecration of the land. So that means we'll do some Bhumi Puja. Why do we do Bhumi Puja? As we mentioned, sthala has so many things. The place we selected, what kind of place it was before. We only know probably 100 years or 200 years, but the Earth is 8.4 billion years. So during this period, what kind of things may have happened? Was it a graveyard about maybe 10,000 years ago? Whatever it is. So that means there are some negative things and then as well as positive things. So in order to make sure we create that positive environment, positive vibrations, we do a lot of rituals. So Bhumi Puja, we will do it in order to make sure we drive out all the negative thoughts. If you look at it, in London and all those places, they are called haunted houses. Still they are there. So that means departed souls, they have not finished their desires. So as a result, they will roam around and all that. So the point is, when we select a particular place for construction of a temple, we want to make sure it meets all the criteria as per the scriptures, and then try to eliminate the negative, negative energy from the area. Amitabhji, so we will come to the other things also at this particular time. So these are the two things we need to know, that is Agama Shastra and Shilpa Shastra. So according to Agama Shastra, that is the layout of the temple, how to build it, what is the science behind it. If you look at it, in all the scriptures, and especially Upanishads and Vedas, and some of the saints also, they have identified the temple as human body. So human body is represented as a temple. So how can you say this one is related to the temple, or how human body is related to the temple? So if you look at it, if we lay down on the floor, we have the feet, okay, we have the stomach, we have the neck, we have the chest, we have the head, all these you look at from that point of view. So that means if you look at any temple built according to the scriptures, the Rajagopuram, Dvajastambam, Mukhamandapam, then Ardhamandapam, and then Garbhasthala, and then you will see the Vimanas and then other Gopuras. So look at the science behind it. The leg, the feet, Rajagopura is like a feet. So that means feet of a god. That's the reason all of us go through Rajagopuram, touch it as if we are touching the feet of the Lord, and then enter. Then you will see this Dvajastamba, and then I don't know how many have noticed it. Next to the Dvajastamba, there is what is called Balipitam. Dvajastamba is supposed to be the representation of the males, and Balipitam represents the females. So you have a combination. So basically that is a creation of the energy is right there. And we touch that Dvajastamba also, and then we enter the temple. You will see that main hall basically, that is Mukhamandapam. It is like a stomach. And then you go take steps and then go and stand in front of or before the Garbhagudi. So that would be like our neck portion. And then Garbhagudi is like our head. On top of it, you will see Vimana, so which is something like a nose. And you will see Kalash. Kalash is like tuft. You know, if you look at in olden days, I think not many of them. I think now many of the priests have that tuft. So tuft is like that, the gopuram, where we put that Kalash. Also, in strictly built based on the science, you will see some gopurams on the left side, and the back side, and the right side also. So that means left side and right side is like our left hand and right hand. And the back would be like our tuft. So you can see there is a science, so much science behind it. And because of this particular setup, you will go through different stages. According to our scriptures, whenever we enter the temple, we have to leave out everything at the door, at where you enter the Rajagopuram, and then slowly you move into it and then go to the Garbhagudi. By that time, you want to make sure you will leave out all the baggage behind and then go in. So that's the reason you will have some kind of a presence, and then you will stand in front of the presiding deity. But where is the energy comes from? Why is it so many vibrations you will feel in the temple? So this is where you will see this Kumbhabhishekam. Before we go to even Kumbhabhishekam, you know that every murti, that is the, I don't want to call it idol because it has its own different connotation, or murti or vigraha. So how it is called is it is highly difficult for us to even explain. We are talking about, I think, Amiji actually mentioned some of these statues or some of the vigrahas dating back to 10,000 years and so on and so on. At that time, the measurements were not as precise as today, but still you will see these images, our gods, so perfectly designed. If you look at the synchronization and the perfection of the murtis, you will be amazed at how they may have imagined and built or carved an image like that one. So that is the kind of talent our people had. You know, according to some of these scriptures, at one time, if you have given the palm, and from here to here, once they measure that one, just only that's all you give it to a sculpture, the artisan, that is what we call Shilpi. If you give the dimensions of this particular hand, he can figure out the entire size of the image and proportions, how much supposed to be the head, how much supposed to be the head, and the stomach, the legs, the feet, everything. Just you don't have to give any other dimensions. In the olden days, that is how they built it. Now there is elaborate description of all the things. So what I want to do at this time, so I will just say there is a lot of need for it. At the same time, we want to make sure our needs are fulfilled when we enter the temple. So there are so many traditions, so many customs that we practice in the temple in order to make sure we receive the vibrations and the blessings of the presiding deity. Now, usually, whenever we go to temple, we just socialize and talk more than what we should. And we have to keep asking people to be silent in many cases. But this is the importance people have not been taught. It is not just you go and have darshan of the God, the presiding God. I mean, that is what we say. I just went and I had darshan of the Murti. It has to be more than that. So there is a small narration here. I'll just give you. There is a dialogue between a god and a devotee. So a devotee goes to the god. He doesn't take anything, no fruits, no bananas, no coconuts, nothing. He just goes empty-handed. And then he sits in front of God and he says, I just want to have some blessings or something like that one. He says, now you came empty-handed, so why don't I give you something? He said, no, I don't want anything from you. Then why did you come? So he says, I come here because then God will ask, you want me to give you something? He said, no, I don't want anything from you also. Then why did you come? So he says, I come here so that I want you to look at me. I want you to look at me and give the blessings. I did not come just only to have darshan, but I want you to look at me and give the blessings. So that means only in silence, God can be present in us. Once we keep talking in the temples, basically the God is not going to be looking at you in the sense, because you see, he doesn't have a choice. God doesn't have a choice even to help you when you don't even have the concentration and silence that is needed in order to communicate with the God. So that is the reason we keep telling in our Hanuman temple, maintain silence. It is only in silence you can visualize, you can receive the blessings of the presiding deity. If you are going to talk the way you talk in other places and whatnot, I mean, there is no vibrations, there is nothing you are going to get it. You have only a satisfaction of visiting the temples. So the spirituality, the vibrations of the God is very important. We need to go to the temple to make sure we concentrate in silence, and only then you receive the blessings from the God. Then I can talk about the different functions that we are going to organize or supposed to, and then also so many customs and traditions that we practice in the temple. Are they scientific? Do they have some value? Do they have any significance? So that is the most important that we need to learn, so that we can appreciate the grandeur of our temples, the thought process of our ancient rishis. I mean, I keep always telling our congregation, because usually I have some discourse every Saturday and Sunday, and I will make sure that everybody is seated for about 7 minutes and talk about something or the other. I keep telling them, just concentrate on whatever it is that when you come here, and try to see what is the meaning of all the things that we do in the temple. Now, one of the articles that I have written, just I want to read just about 3-4 sentences, because if you look at some of the temples in India and elsewhere, it is astonishing. How could anybody build some temples like that one? I mean, if you look at all as you mentioned, South India and whatnot, because we have not seen the North Indian temples because they are all destroyed by these invasions and all that. Look at the size, look at the mammoth size, look at the intricacy of all the murtis and everything that you see inside and outside. So this is what I was wonderstruck at one time, so that's the reason I wrote just this one. So I said, Hindu temples are architectural wonders, masterpieces, and marvels representing the diversity of culture of the country. They are as magnificent as majestic, as beautiful as bewitching, as amazing as astonishing, as grandeur as graceful, as imaginative as intuitive, as potent as powerful, as complex as complicated, as intricate as innovative, as splendid as spectacular, as ingenious as inspirational, as mathematical as meticulous, as precise as proportional, as scientific as spiritual, and as creative as compelling. As Rabindranath Tagore said, the great Indian Nobel laureate, here the language of the stone surpasses the language of man. So the language, if you look at the stone, surpasses the imagination of the man. Look at that statement. I mean, it's almost impossible for us to even describe the grandeur and the richness of these temples. So this is the culture that we have. We have to promote it. We have to encourage these people. We have to enrich our kids Because you see, our main concern, our main issue is we are not able to transmit this knowledge to our next generation. Either fortunately, unfortunately, we have not learned it when we were children also. There was no formal transmission. Now, all of us are aware of the importance and significance of these temples now. And we want to make sure our next generation appreciates not only just going to the temple, the entire architecture, the entire iconography, that is image worship and multiplicity of gods. Everything that we are doing is highly scientific. So Amitabhji, so if it is okay, I just want to go ahead and try to talk about few.
Prakasarao, before you go ahead, I had two questions.
Yes.
Unlike in India, in North America, we see, for example, in Atlanta, there is a mall. And inside the mall, there are 3 temples. And in the name of temple, there are just one, maybe 10 by 20 room where there are 2 or 3 images and murtis, and that's the temple. So what you talked about is very relevant, that, hey, you have to have a process, a very concerted effort to be able to have Pran Pratishtha of the murtis and all that, so that the energy is emanated, and that energy is then assimilated within the human body. So in structures like this, it is totally bereft and devoid of that kind of a architecture or that kind of environment. My second question is that you talk very eloquently about the traditions, about the customs, about the rituals. The younger generation in America or even in India and other countries is more interested in the contextual relevance of Hindutva. So yes, it is important for them to understand, why do we do Gayatri Mantra? Why do we do Abhishekam? Why do we not stand behind? Why do we stand at a certain location inside the temple? Because that's where the focus of energy is.
Okay? Yes.
But also the fact that the temples today, as Mr. Gulati rightly pointed out, should become seats of dissemination of information, right? We know for sure that other religions, the synagogues, the churches, or others, they are a center of awareness. They are a center of, and that awareness has to be in tandem, in tune, in line, aligned with what is required today. So the youngsters today feel very enthused with how Hindutva is not only relevant in the past, but is relevant today and relevant. For example, Gita is the masterpiece of management. And all the gurus, whether it is Peter Drucker or it is Philip Kotler of marketing, they all recognize and that Gita is something which is spiritually ordained and it is powerful in terms of management tools. So likewise, Hindutva, the religion, our religion, and it is, I think, sacrosanct for our temples to be disseminating that knowledge and also encourage interfaith dialogue. So in America, for example, there are many times you have interfaith meetings and Hindu religion is not even represented in there. So I think we must become elements of propagating, of encouraging, of inviting other people into our domain and saying, listen, this is our rich culture and heritage. We embody it. We follow Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but at the same time, we don't want anybody else to denigrate us or to subjugate us like we have done in the past. So whether we play our victim card effectively or we do our bit to be able to propagate the right tenets, I think that is a very important role that Mr. Mohan Gulati also said. And what is your take on this, Dr. Prakasarao? You have to unmute, Dr. Prakasarao.
I mean, as you said, and as Mohanji mentioned, there is no question about the need to have some kind of uniform code of ethics among all the temples. And when you mentioned about all these temples in the shopping malls and all that, you see, unfortunately, we have been commercializing our religion, our Hindu dharma. And they are aware of it. But I think this is the freedom that we have given to all our Hindu brothers, and some of them are going to be misused. But also, it has its little silver lining in it also, because of the way they started in a small mall, and organized this particular religious center. So they are able to move and build brand new temples, because many of them don't have the kind of resources they need in order to start at a grand scale. So that is what happened in Sai Baba temple in our place. They used to have it in a very small place in some, and then they moved to another location. Now they built a very beautiful temple. So this is a stepping stone. The only thing is we now want to make sure it would not die down at the same level, same shopping mall, and it will be a stepping stone for the next level. So definitely let us make sure that they do that one. And if you look at the younger generation that we are talking about, my feeling is definitely they are more aware of the temple worship services. They are coming in large numbers. It also depends to a large extent, as Gulati ji mentioned, about the management of the temple. Once the temples create that atmosphere, once they really project the harmonious image of the temple, I think many of the Hindus want to go and then try to practice it. Some of the temples are unfortunately have certain issues. So because of that one, some of them have been turned off. And one thing that we have to be careful about is to maintain, also to see that all the rituals are practiced as per the scriptures. See, once you slack, once you try to adjust to the circumstances, to some extent we have to do it. Once you try to compromise the sanctity of the temple for the practicality, so you are going to lose the sanctity of that temple. That's the reason we want to make sure that as per the Agama Shastras, as per the our scriptures, we have to conduct all these rituals as per the scriptures. Now, let us look at some of the things, what goes on in the temple. I mean, I always say, okay, you enter the temple first. So first thing that we suggest and we insist also is you need to have your tilak on the forehead. Without forehead, you should not come into the temple. We insist on it. So many people wear it, even though some of them don't. But eventually, you will see overwhelming majority of them put tilak, because I think at one time we talked about it, by just applying tilak and pressing, when you are putting the tilak, when pressing that Agneya chakra, what impact it would have on the brain through the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. It is highly scientific. You know, let us say even the bangles, okay, or ear nuts, or ear, and then toes. We used to wear all these jewelry in olden days. Because of wearing these jewelry, all the nerve centers in the body used to be activated. Once they are activated, so obviously it has many health benefits because of the wearing of those things. Now we have abandoned to a large extent wearing many of these jewelries, either to the gayam and bangles in the hands and so on and so on. Obviously, they are not activated. Obviously, some of these health problems are related to not following our scriptures, not following our traditions, not following all the rules that are described at one time in our history. Now, once they come in, obviously you will see a lot of people doing pradakshina, taking Tirtham and then doing this super brain yoga, we call it. That is, when you go and stand in front of Ganeshji, so you will just hold your ears and then squat. So now they call it super brain. And then you do the pradakshina. Every one of them has been scientifically proven to have many, many, many health benefits. For example, this squatting that we are talking about, I think all of you know, this is called super brain yoga. Look at how much research has been done on this super brain yoga. Now, many schools are using this super brain yoga in order to discipline the children, in order to improve their academic performance, in order to improve their intelligence, in order to have good relations or social relations with fellow students, and so on and so on. The research is overwhelming. I would say at least 40, 50 articles have been published on that one, just on this particular topic, that is super yoga, which is basically squatting in front of Lord Ganesh. So at one time, everybody used to laugh. These people are squatting, or these people are doing this, this. But there is so much science behind it. In the same way, if you look at Tirtham, so it involves 3-4 things. One, you mix, it depends on the temple and the availability. It could be as many as 32 herbs are mixed in the water. And that water is placed in front of the deity. And then you have chanted the mantras at length for some time. And then usually you put this water in the copper pot. Look at each one of them. Water, herbs, then chanting, and then so you are putting in the copper bottle, vessel. Now, all these 4 things are scientifically proven how it will affect our health, our mind, our body. Everything, every one of them. If you remember, the water obviously absorbs everything. It will listen to it. It can hear to it. It will respond to it. If it is negative, it will respond negatively. If it is positive, it responds positively. So that means by chanting all these mantras, obviously that water is going to receive those positive vibrations. And as a result, when you drink it, obviously you will receive the vibrations, positive vibrations also. It's a very simple logic. When you meet somebody, and if you say you're ugly, you're not good, you're not a good person, just imagine how his body reacts. Suppose we praise him, you are doing such a great job and all that, your demeanor changes immediately. So because our body contains 2/3 of water, the water is reacting to it. Whatever we say, whatever we do, our body reacts. So whenever somebody says something, so we react to it. So that's the reason the vibrations generated and infused in this water is going to create a lot of energy for us whenever we take that one. In the same way, all the herbs have so many health benefits. In the same way, we have done this research also on the copper vessel, the copper itself, antigenic, and all these other things that is put in the water have all the health benefits. So it looks very simple. Oh, we are taking Tirtham. But if you look at all the 4 things in that Tirtham and see individually, you can find out all the benefits that you can accrue. In the same way, so we do the pradakshina. And when you do pradakshina, why? See, whenever we install the murti in that particular place in the temple, it is scientifically designed in such a way, according to scriptures, if we follow it, the height of the murti, and then it will go in a particular angle and then try to look at the Rajagopuram. So there should be a particular way of looking at it. So that means the vibrations from the earth, from the sky, and from the planets will come directly actually to the Murti. When we do the Kumbhabhishekam, that is where all the energy is poured into it, because it's a 3 days or 5 day celebration that we do. When we are doing the Kumbhabhishekam, lot of chanting, lot of water, lot of energy created, a lot of power is generated in that one. All that one is actually stored in the kalash, and then we do the Kumbha Abhishekam. That is where we put the water and all that. So this is a constant stream of energy that we will get from all the planets, because the energy is always there. It all depends on which one can attract. You see, we say water is everywhere, but you have to have in some place in order to drink. In the same way, the cow gives milk, but it doesn't give the whole cow doesn't give milk. Only udder, where you see udder, that is the only place where you can have the milk. In the same way, you have energy all over the place, but the energy is only in one particular place. That is where we have the main image in the temple. So that's the reason we have to realize the energy is stored in a particular place where you can see it. And all that energy that we have been talking about, which is unmanifest, we don't know where it is. Okay, so this particular murti that we installed in the temple is a manifestation of that infinity, of that energy. Since we cannot see it, so that whatever is not seen has been transformed into an image or murti. So that's the reason our Hindu scholars, our Hindu Maharshis, they have designed a plan where we will be able to concentrate on a particular form. So that way we will be able to concentrate and then receive the blessings. Because without concentrating on a particular form, it is very, very, very difficult for anybody to receive the kind of concentration, because as you know, mind is very unstable. Within seconds, it will keep moving. It keeps on wavering. It won't stay in one place more than probably 3-4 seconds. It will keep on moving. So in order to have the concentration, so that's the reason they keep saying, so you need to see that you are in presence of it and you have a form in front of it. Slowly, you will develop some concentration. So image worship is one of the important things that distinguishes Hinduism from the other religions. As Amishji mentioned, why is it that, not why is it, he mentioned that interfaith dialogue also. And so, and then have some kind of understanding with the other religions if we want to have some kind of a dialogue. In our temple, usually we have about 300-400 students come from the high schools. We have a PowerPoint presentation to give, about our Hinduism. So we talk about it. And it's amazing how much these kids know a little bit about our Hinduism. And the kind of questions they ask also is really amazing. And so I'll give you a few examples. One of them, so we talk about our scientific nature of our religion. And we always say, we never accept anything without discuss, dialogue, and debate. Without this one, we will never accept it. We keep on asking questions. So that's the reason we have 108 Upanishads. That is where we discuss the questions between a guru and a shishya. Always student can ask any question they want, and it is the responsibility of the guru to respond. So when I mentioned this one in one of the classes, so the teacher who brought all these students, the teacher comes to me and says, Dr. Rao, I wish you would come to my church and tell the pastor that I can ask a question. So that means she says she can't ask a single question in the church as to what is written in the Bible, what not, all those things. So whereas we are very fortunate, we can ask any kind of question, and we have gurus, we have scriptures who can guide us, who can enlighten us, who can make us aware of the richness of our culture.